Hey, I'm Steve Miletto, and thanks for joining me because this is the place where we talk resources for classroom teachers and building administrators. And today I'm talking about getting ready for your first meeting with a parent. Good stuff. Hey, I got a question for you. Did everyone ever teach you how to meet with parents? It sounds like a funny question to ask, but I'll bet they didn't. Because that's one of the things that you're going to need to do as an educator. If you're a classroom teacher or building administrator, at some point you need to meet with parents. And I don't count email as meeting with parents. Neither do I count a phone call, because both of those, you may not convey the real message that needs to be conveyed. Nothing like a face-to-face meeting. And the problem with that, though, is that most of us have never had anybody say, Steve, sit down for just a second so we can talk about how you're going to go about having this first parent meeting. I don't know about you, but I've had those experiences, and some of them went better than others. But what's sad is that you typically learn what not to do and what to do through experience, not because a mentor or a coach helped you understand that let's get this right the first time. So let me explain what I mean by let's get this right the first time. Well, number one, don't be afraid of the meeting. You need to meet with people. If you teach kids, you should crave the desire to be in a meeting with the parents. And the sooner you do it, the better. Don't wait until the semester's been going on forever and then suddenly everything's gone downhill and that's when you need to meet. Oh, no. Try and do it as soon as possible, especially when you got nothing but good stuff to say. So we don't want to be afraid of meeting with a parent. But when that time comes, you want to think in terms of this. First of all, do not avoid it. You need to meet with a parent, meet with a parent. Phone calls, leaving messages, that's not meeting with a parent. Sending emails often sends a tone, and you can't interpret, face-to-face, it's pretty hard to misinterpret that tone. Whereas emails, oh my gosh, capitalize a few things, put a few spaces in between places where the spaces shouldn't be, and even if you did it by accident, suddenly somebody thinks you're angry at them. And it'll only get worse if you try to solve the problem through email. So the best thing to do is if a parent is upset at you, or if a parent just wants to meet with you, or you simply want to meet with the parent, with the child to talk about their progress, schedule a meeting. And when you schedule that meeting, when you go to it, make sure you take with you all the information you have about the child. You may not use it all, but it's important to have grades. It's important to have information about their progress, any papers that they've completed, so that you can talk through and be exact about what your point is. And that is the number one thing you want to make sure you have with you when you go into that meeting is ask yourself, what is it I want to accomplish at this meeting? And then write that answer down. And when you write that answer down, create little subsets of it so that you can ask yourself, okay, if this is what I want to accomplish, what are certain specific points I need to make sure that I talk about? Now, before I finish, because that's a big part of meeting with parents and understanding is that you come prepared. Well, something else you got to understand is that you got to work on how you listen. Because you can't come with the intent of, I'm just going to talk and I'm going to tell them what needs to be told to them. No. You need to go with the intent of listening. This needs to be a two-way street. This needs to be a conversation, especially, if this is your first time. Because if you don't listen, you don't hear what the other side is saying. And that's not good. So when you're getting ready to meet with parents, number one, don't be afraid. Don't put it off, make it happen. Number two, don't solve it by trying to deal with it through emails, because that won't solve anything. Schedule a meeting. So the third part about this is you need to schedule a meeting, face-to-face meeting. And when you go to that meeting, the fourth thing about scheduling a meeting with parents is come prepared. Bring information, progress, information about what the child's doing, not doing well, those types of things. It's important. because a parent's going to want to know. And the last thing I want to mention, the fifth thing, is simply this. Ask yourself, what is it that I want to accomplish at this meeting? Write that answer down, and then create little categories that help support the idea of what you're trying to accomplish. Questions you want to make sure, information that you want to make sure that you bring up or talk about. Now, I do have to say this, because I said the last thing was my final one, but the last thing I do need to make a point about is that you've got to work on listening. Because if you go into a meeting with a parent and all you're doing is telling them, that's not going to go over well. You've got to be willing to listen. Just a little bit of food for thought, getting ready for that first parent meeting. Thanks. See you next time.